Earlier this week, I was speaking with Mr. Bug about how I can adjust the weight on my vehicles by adjusting the suspension, and how I can move the weight forwards and backwards on the trailer to improve performance as well as change the handling characteristics. It also allows you to carry a little bit more weight and reduces wear and tear on some of the tires. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the car hauler trailer here. I don't remember the name of the actual vehicles, so you'll have to forgive me that. Alright, my little Jeep thing did not like towing this, so we're going to run this across the scale and get our weights here. Notice that there is no weight on that rear axle, but also notice the rear axle is not turning as we go here. And so this in this trailer doesn't matter so much, but on the bigger trailers, when they get quite heavy, will allow you to turn substantially tighter before you lose your traction. And I forgot just how bad I am at backing up these smaller trailers. Alright, so now we're loading this up. I want to show how setting up that trailer, which is the same trailer that and no settings changed based on what I showed you earlier. So notice how the trailer squats, and we'll put this on there, and you'll notice that there's almost no weight on the back axle. Now I've got this set up pretty extreme with that +5 on there, but you can put less on there on your lift, and it won't tilt as much when you roll up, so you won't be able to pick up the lower vehicles as easy, but it will also put more weight on that rear axle when you're loaded. Alright, let's go ahead and run this across the scale. Okay. Alright, and there you see all that weight is on the front, and only a little bit is on that rear axle on the trailer. So now let's just go ahead and so that's 1 ton on the rear axle as well. So let's adjust some ride height and spring weight on this trailer, and we'll see what it does. Alright, so we've got that all switched about. So the first thing, let's run it across the scale, and see what we did with our weight. Now you can already tell that the truck itself has got some of that squat. Now there's your extra half ton on that rear truck axle, as well as more weight put on the back. Now this doesn't turn as tight because the rear axle is now the one with all the weight. Alright, but let's see how this affects how we load and we unload. Alright, so notice how the trailer does not squat at all when you roll on there. All we're doing here is placing the weight on that rear axle, changing the performance and handling of this trailer. Now, I don't think that you need to have the heavy-duty springs on there, so the 200%, all I'm doing for that is because I want to be able to, with this trailer, haul something heavier than what I normally would. But for most of what I have done with this trailer, I ran just the stock suspension. But let's now adjust this down from the +5 to like say a +2. Oh, I didn't have to bring that all the way in. Let's just go ahead there. Right. Alright, so I've got the +2 on the front, and now I want to change my springs back around. And for this example, I'll go ahead and leave the 200% off. Now, the springs, I think everyone is using incorrectly. You don't need to have the extra springs. All the extra springs do is allow you to run extra weight. And if you're just hauling regular cars on here, the trailer should be more than sufficient for just regular cars. You're actually reducing your performance when you put too much spring into it, because then you have to put way more damper in it. Now notice it's squatting as we go on there, and you can see just by how it's sitting that the weight is more on the front end. But by adjusting that previous the previous settings down to a +2, I guess we need to put up our ramps. That we're going to be having some weight adjusted across the trailer as well as on the back of the truck itself. So let's see what this does. So now notice that we've got more weight on that front axle and less weight on the back axle, and then the weight on the truck itself is almost equal. So if we come back around here, and we can show you that when it's not loaded, it's going to handle the trailer itself is going to handle differently. And this is because the tires themselves are not scuffing. So let's, with this, there's a little bit of tilt in this trailer because of how the tow vehicle is, and you'll notice I've actually got the front end sitting lower than the back end, and that's also going to increase my ability to put more weight on the front end, because everything here is a teeter-totter. So as you put angle into your vehicles, it's going to change the performance characteristics of the trailer. So we've got 0 weight on the back, even though those axles are spinning. And so what that means is that our pivot point is further forward, and we can now make tighter corners. Alright. I don't think that there's anything more I want to show you with this vehicle, so let's go ahead and grab a different vehicle, different couple vehicles. Alright, I'm looking for the heaviest 20-footer I can find, and I can't remember if I can force it to go to the rear or not. Alright, let's see if I can. Alright, and I don't remember exactly how this trailer is set up at the moment. I might have just purchased this straight out. Nope. I have this one set up so that one axle, the middle axle, is up in the air, and the other 2 axles are on the ground. Now, it doesn't take much. In this case, I was just trying to change the turning radius because of the larger semi truck here that I put lockers on. So let's run this across the scale. Alright, and you can see there the center axle has almost no weight on it, whereas the other 2 axles are loaded down. Now, again, everything's a teeter-totter here, and the front trailer is going to be your teeter-totter pivot point. So, because one axle is in the air, that rear axle is going to have all the weight of the middle axle, as well as itself and everything behind it. So now let's go and grab what I would call a can, but y'all call containers. And yeah, I just leave my stuff sitting around. Alright, so since it won't let me do that, let's do this, unload, and let's throw a light one on the front, and then the heaviest one we can on the back. Alright, so let's run this across the scale, and then we'll make some adjustments to the suspension. Purely ride height to work on that teeter-totter effect. Just to show how the weight adjusts. This is something I do every day with work. Although I don't have 3 axles on my trailer, I only have 2. So what we do is we slide our axles in that case. And by sliding the axles, because the front axle is where the teeter-totter effect is, we can put more weight on the truck or more weight on the trailer. So now let's take a look at our weight. We're overweight on the back end by a lot, and then you'll notice the weight on the front end, or on the trailer's rear axle. Now in real life that doesn't actually happen that way, but also in real life the front end's going to be substantially heavier. My semi that I drive every day for work, my front axles are 12,000 pounds or 6 ton, and this vehicle would be heavier, so this truck itself would be heavier than what I run for work. Alright, so all we're going to do is adjust the trailer ride height here. So we're going to change this to there, and then we're going to come in here and adjust that to there. So now, because my teeter-totter is this axle as opposed to that axle, we should put more weight on the tractor, as well as remove weight from the axles on the trailer. Alright, so we did put more weight on the middle 2 axles there, and we I think we put some more weight on the tractor itself. I'll have to go back and look at the video. So you ask, how are we going to move more weight forward? Well, we need to adjust some ride height to get more teeter-totter effect. Now this is an extreme case with the amount of weight that I have on the back, and I did that on purpose so that we can show how with the lighter trailer on the front we can change the way that the weight is moving. So if we want to throw more weight forward, we want to put the front axle as high in the air as we can. We might even want to put the -9 there. So now we're leaning forward a lot with this trailer, and all of the weight should be on the back. Medium weight here, less weight here, and it should put more weight up there. Alright, so we did put more weight on the tractor. We put less weight on the other two, and then that rear axle obviously is carrying a ton of weight. Now in this case, we've got way too much weight on the back end to actually adjust out that weight. Although if we raised up the front, or I mean that rear axle completely, we might be able to get it so that it's legal. We can give that a try. It's not going to hurt anything. And again, because I want to move weight forward, I want to do that. Now here's my pivot point. So I'm going to have all of this weight back here, but a lot of weight's going to be there. I actually think that I need to not do this, and let's see here, what do we got? Let's do this. Oh, we already did this. Well, we just as well go and look at what it looks like with the 10. Again, all of that weight is now on that middle axle. Now notice it's turning better, and that's because that front axle is up in the air and the rear axle is up in the air. And by up in the air, I mean they are on the ground, but they have much less weight on them. And so there's less turning resistance with them. Alright, so now we've got all that weight in the middle, and we've pulled weight back. As you notice, we've pulled weight off of the tractor itself. So let's go and make some changes. Now I cannot recall if I can. Alright, so I have now picked up a single container, and I have adjusted the axles so that everything is back to stock ride height. And now let's run it across the scale and see what it looks like. Now in the game, container that is straight, single container like this, balances out the weight across the entire length. That is not necessarily how it happens in real life, because you have people who load trailers like baboons. They just throw stuff in there, and by stuff I don't mean stuff, but it's another S word, and just however it sits, it sits. So as you can see, the weights on that front trailer axle is substantially higher, and again that's because of the teeter-totter effect. So because of the teeter-totter effect, the front axle is going to have more weight on it, because all of the weight that is in front of that axle is going to be pressing down on that front axle, except for what is then supported by the tractor itself. So let's make some adjustments here. And as you can see here, it was set to stock. So if we adjust this, now this axle here should be where the majority of our weight is, but we're going to put more weight up front here. But as we come out, let's go back into a jackknife turn and see if it turns better. Notice how it's turning better. You probably can't tell, I can tell. It's turning better. That's because we're not dragging as many axles with this weight. So let's come across the scale here. Alright, so now we moved weight to the tractor itself. There's no weight on that front axle, and then we put weight on the back two axles. Now, I have, with this trailer, not been able to move weight any further forward. You'll notice that that axle is the front driving axle on this truck is lighter. That's because I have put negative ride height so that the steer tires have more weight on them, because I was hauling extra heavy and having the truck be unable to turn. So I adjusted out some of the suspension ride height to put more weight on the front. So now I think we should go across into the grass and make some changes and see how the performance characteristics change based on just adjusting the trailer. Alright, here I have set up a test with completely stock, which we'll show when we go back to change. So completely stock trailer, well, as far as ride height, and then I do have some lockers on this as well as a limited slip. So just to show how adjusting the weight onto the trailer changes the performance characteristics of the trailer, or of the truck. Now I'm locking it into second. Alright, so this is where it started to slip. Alright, let's go make some suspension changes. And just an explanation on the colors of the lights. One of my daughter's favorite color is blue. The other daughter's favorite color is purple. Alright, so again, this is going to put more weight on that rear axle. It's also changing my turning performance. So let's go see what it does in this test up the hill. Okay. Alright, we walked into second. Notice, we went all the way that much further. Just as a final note, I have a trailer that I've set up for the AI drivers to run produce down to Ara, and that trailer is only got one axle on the ground. And it does seem, again, like it is not wearing out as fast. Now, I personally think that the vehicles wear out entirely too fast in this game. I mean, I just drove a vehicle some 30,000 miles between services, and these can't seem to make a couple miles between services. Well, I'm sorry, kilometers between services. So, I don't know about that. Alright, and for one last example on how to adjust weight around, I've got this trailer loaded up with some various toys. Alright, so we have 8.2 on the rear axle of the tractor. So let's go ahead and make some adjustments here. Alright. Now, normally I would position this so that it was like this in the first place, so I don't damage my other vehicles. Alright, let's back up across the scale and see what kind of damage we did. I don't remember what my weights were. So we'll have to take a look at the recording.